It was a quiet night in a small village. A lady was carefully putting a bundle of money into a box after shutting her window. Clearly, she was more protective of her cash than some people are of their secrets. Meanwhile, in another house in the same village, there was a strange windmill installed. It looked like a lamp that kept spinning around, showing wind directions. Basically a weather vane trying to feel important. Inside that house, a man named Linga was sitting in front of a photo of a guy called Abba Malia. It looked like the whole village treated Abba Malia as some kind of saint because candles were burning all around his picture. There was even a covered pot nearby, like some mysterious treasure chest. As Linga was sitting there, he found a key hidden in a book. He quickly stashed it back on the shelf. Then, as he was about to pour himself a drink, because clearly, solving mysteries is thirsty work, the lights in the room started flickering. Linga freaked out and blamed all the weirdness on something he called price. Because, of course, it makes perfect sense to blame random supernatural happenings on price. What even is that? The ghost of inflation. Scared out of his wits, Linga called for Malia, because calling dead people is apparently a thing now. But there was no reply. So, he stepped outside and heard strange noises coming from the bushes. Curious, and probably regretting his life choices, he followed the sounds and saw a shadow running away. Linga approached the bushes and found blood dripping from one of them. Classic horror movie move. Instead of running, he decided to investigate. Bravo, Linga. To his horror, he found Abba Malia's dead body lying there. As if that wasn't horrifying enough, when Linga touched the body, Malia's head fell off. Yep, someone had brutally murdered Abba Malia by chopping off his neck. Talk about losing your head over something. Poor Malia, though. Linga was terrified, and the story suddenly rewound 12 hours earlier. Now, we're in another village where three friends, Einan, Rini, and Baguz, were up to their own mischief. Einan was pretending to exorcise a ghost from Rini, while Baguz filmed it. It turns out Einan wanted to be like Abba Malia, who was a well-known shaman or exorcist with mystical powers. Because why dream of becoming a doctor or engineer when you can be a knockoff Ghostbuster? Baguz, however, wasn't buying any of this nonsense. He believed in Allah, and thought people like Malia were frauds. He got on his bicycle and went to Varghani Islamic boarding school, where a caretaker named Buddy looked after him. Baguz had grown up as an orphan, taken in by kind-hearted strangers. At the school, Baguz turned on the TV and saw news about Abba Malia and his miracle water. The news claimed that Malia was a messenger of Allah who could cure diseases with his water. For the past 15 years, Malia had been living in an ashram-like building in the village of Bumi SUV, because nothing says messenger of Allah like selling overpriced bottled water. Meanwhile, we saw a strange scene of Malia doing some kind of intense ritual with a woman. Inspired by this, Einan started imitating Malia's actions, chanting his words. As he did, a mysterious symbol appeared on his hand. Great, Einan. You've officially gone from wannabe Ghostbuster to cult enthusiast. And that symbol? It's going to be important later. So don't forget it. In the second clip, Abba Malia performs what looks like a miracle. He completely heals the legs of a disabled man, and the man starts walking again. Wow. Malia out here acting like a human repair shop. What's next? Fixing Wi-Fi signals? Meanwhile, Buddy walks into the room and switches off the TV, clearly unimpressed by Malia's theatrics. From his words, we learn that Buddy doesn't believe in Malia's so-called miracles. Buddy had come to Einan to ask her to join him for prayers, but Einan refuses. She was too busy watching Malia's program and said she'd pray later. Classic excuse. Let me finish this episode, then I'll do the important stuff. Frustrated, Buddy leaves. Elsewhere, a man and his daughter are seen outside Malia's house. The man believes this is a place to increase his wealth, though his daughter looks confused. Understandably so. Because who thinks, let me go to this guy's creepy house to double my cash. Maybe he's expecting a free lesson in economics. Linga comes out of the house and tells the man to go inside to meet Malia, leaving the daughter waiting outside. While waiting, she wanders near a mosque. It's time for prayer, so she begins washing her hands and feet at the tap. Suddenly, we see a pair of demonic feet standing near her. She looks up, and everything seems normal again. Spooky, but also, who's doing surprise pedicures in the middle of nowhere? Inside Malia's house, the man is sitting near him, desperate to make money. Malia asks him to put all his money in a box and place his hand on it. As soon as he does, Malia takes out a dagger and stabs the man's hand. Blood pours out, and the man screams in pain, but Malia assures him to trust the process and pours his miracle water on the wound. To everyone's shock, the wound heals completely. Talk about extreme customer service. Give me your money, bleed a little, and trust me. But that's not the shocking part. When the box is opened, the money inside has doubled. The man, now greedy beyond belief, demands even more money. Malia, with a sly smile, asks if he's willing to make a sacrifice. Here's a life tip. If someone asks for a sacrifice to get rich, it's time to run, not negotiate. The scene shifts back to the daughter, who is praying inside the mosque. Suddenly, a demonic shadow appears near her. It's heavily implied that the man, in his greed, sacrificed his own daughter for more wealth. Congratulations, Dad. You just won the Worst Parent of the Year award. Back at night, we see Rini and Einan heading toward the boarding school. Midway, Rini suddenly remembers she forgot to bring her menstrual pads. She tells Einan to wait outside, while she goes back to get them. Einan stays behind, waiting, but this happens to be the exact moment when Mulia was killed. Suddenly, the streetlights near Einan start flickering, and then Abba Mulia appears in front of her. He tells her she has the potential to become like him, a powerful figure. Then, in a bizarre move, he pulls out a dagger and slits his own throat, muttering, "One head for one head." Honestly, Mulia, you could have just sent a motivational email instead of this horror movie performance. Einan is terrified and starts screaming. Rini rushes back, and as soon as she arrives, everything becomes normal again. But one thing stands out. Where Mulia was standing, there was complete darkness, almost as if it reflected his evil energy. On the other hand, Einan was surrounded by light, which hinted that she was pure-hearted or at least a normal human being. Einan eventually reaches the house of Iron Body, aka Bodhi, who is busy chatting on the phone. At the same time, the TV turns on, showing the shocking news of Mulia's mysterious death. Einan is absolutely stunned. After all, she'd just seen Mulia alive moments ago. Mulia's gone? But I just saw him. What's next? Ghost doing daily check-ins. Bodhi interrupts her shock and hands her some old stuff, dropping a bombshell. Einan is actually Mulia's daughter. Yes, the same Mulia she thought was just some mystical dude with a knack for dramatic entrances. As it turns out, Einan's mother had entrusted her to Bodhi in childhood, instructing him to keep her far away from Mulia. Naturally, Einan is furious at Bodhi for never telling her the truth. So, I've been living my whole life thinking I'm an orphan, while you've been sitting on family secrets like some budget soap opera villain. Bodhi explains he was only following Einan's mother's wishes, and hands her a box he's kept hidden all these years. Inside, Einan finds money, her mother's belongings, and some old photographs of her mother with Mulia. Seeing these, she becomes emotional and decides she must attend Mulia's funeral. Because hey, nothing like awkward family reunions at funerals, right? That night, Einan sneaks out of the boarding school with Rini. On their way, Bagoo shows up out of nowhere, probably trying to look cool but failing miserably, and Einan begrudgingly lets him tag along. Together, they head to Mulia's village, which is quite far from where Einan lives. Along the way, she wonders why Mulia never tried to find her. But right now, she's too focused on getting to the funeral and finding out how he died since the whole thing is shrouded in mystery. While traveling, Einan feels as if someone is calling her name and sees a fleeting vision of death on the road. Because what's a road trip without some creepy paranormal vibes to spice things up? Finally, they arrive at Mulia's house, where the entire village is in mourning. Everyone is crying over the loss of their messiah, and the atmosphere is heavy with grief. A pregnant woman named Ajang approaches Linga, Mulia's loyal follower, and cryptically mentions that Mulia's firstborn is here, referring to Einan. Congrats, Einan. You're not just a daughter. You're Mulia's firstborn. Too bad your inheritance comes with a side of trauma. Linga then invites Einan to wash Mulia's body as part of the funeral ritual, which is apparently some village tradition. Rini and Bagooz find this request extremely odd. Wait, washing dead bodies is part of the funeral? Did we stumble into a horror film or a hygiene lesson? But they stay quiet, assuming that different villages have different customs. Einan approaches Mulia's body and begins pouring water over it. That's when she notices something strange. A mark on Mulia's hand, identical to the one on her own hand, except Mulia's mark appears deeper. Ajang also notices this, her expression a mix of curiosity and concern. So now, we're left wondering, what's the deal with this mysterious mark? Why was Mulia such a terrible dad? And will Einan ever get through this mess without losing her sanity? Stay tuned, because this village's drama could fill a whole season of reality TV. After Mulia's dead body is brought to the hospital for the burial, the entire village gathers, sobbing uncontrollably. Linga starts reciting some unusual prayers that Einan, Rennie, and Bagooz can't understand. Is this a funeral or an audition for mysterious chanting in a horror movie? Still, they decide to respect the tradition and stay silent until the burial is over. After the ceremony, Einan, Rennie, and Bagooz visit Mulia's house, where Linga drops another plot twist. He tells Einan that Mulia has left something for her. Naturally, Rennie and Bagooz tag along to see what it is, but Linga stops them. Sorry guys, but this is VIP-only access. Go find some snacks or something. Linga explains that Einan will enter alone while Rennie and Bagooz can return to their village. However, Einan insists they stay the night, and Linga arranges rooms for them. That's when Ajang, a pregnant woman, reveals a little family drama. She's Mulia's third wife, and Ainan's mother was Mulia's first wife. So, Mulia was out here collecting wives like Pokemon? Gotta marry 'em all. Later, as Linga escorts Einan to a room, Ajang pulls Rennie and Bagoo's aside, warning them that not everything in this place is what it seems. She urges them to take Ayanin and leave immediately. But Rennie, ever the optimist, speculates that Mulia must have left behind some magical object for Ayanin. Sure, Rennie, because nothing screams family heirloom like cursed magical artifacts. Ajang sighs in frustration and leaves with them. Meanwhile, Linda takes Ayanin to Mulia's room and asks her to wait while he fetches something from another room. Left alone, Ayanin begins exploring the space. Suddenly, she notices a shadow behind the curtain. When she pulls it back, there's nothing there. Classic haunted house behavior. Either that, or Mulia just wanted his curtains to double as a jump scare. As Ayanin turns back, a demonic figure lunges at her. She screams in terror, but Linda conveniently arrives just in time. Everything goes back to normal, leaving Ayanin shaken but alive. Nice timing, Linda. Did you have this dramatic rescue plan? After calming her down, Linda hands her a mysterious book left by Mulia. The book contains rituals and secrets about Mulia's powers, and only his descendants can learn them. Linda tells Ayanin that she is destined to follow in her father's footsteps and master these powers. Ah, yes, because who wouldn't want a legacy of creepy rituals and random demons attacking them? Linda schedules a midnight training session for Ayanin at a secret location, and instructs her to come alone, without telling Rennie or Bagoo's. Of course, Ayanin agrees, because what could go wrong? Later in the evening, Bagoo's heads to the mosque near Mulia's house with a microphone to recite the azan, so the village can hear it. But Linda stops him, explaining that the villagers don't use microphones for azan. No mics? What's next? No Wi-Fi. This place is really testing Bagoo's patience. Bagoo's decides to pray quietly instead. While praying, he hears a voice joining him. It sounds like Mulia. Nervous but curious, Bagoo's glances to his side, only to see Mulia's severed head reciting the azan with him. Oh great, nothing like a talking decapitated head to make your prayers unforgettable. Thanks for the nightmare fuel, Mulia. Bagoo's gets terrified after seeing Mulia's severed head reciting the azan alongside him. In a panic, he starts praying faster, hoping for divine protection. When he looks back, the head is gone. Great, now even the ghosts are playing peekaboo. Thanks, Mulia, for the heart attack. After finishing his prayers, Bagoo stands up and realizes something horrifying. He had been praying in the wrong direction, facing the mosque itself instead of the proper way. Of course, Bagoo's. When in doubt, just pray in reverse. Maybe that's how you summon Mulia's head. This realization leaves him shaken, and he confides in Rennie later that night. Rennie, already dealing with a headache, is equally spooked. What's even stranger is that since arriving in the village, they hadn't heard anyone reciting the azan or seen people praying, even though such things were routine before. Bagoo starts to think that the villagers might be under the influence of some dark force, perhaps even the devil himself, who has turned them into followers. Ah yes, classic small-town vacation gone wrong. Nothing says hospitality like devil worship and creepy silence. Meanwhile, Ayanin enters the room, laughing eerily, clutching the mysterious book Linda gave her. Rennie follows her, curious, and starts filming Ayanin with her camera. She asks Ayanin if the book is really the same one Mulia always carried. Ayanin doesn't answer directly, leaving Rennie to shrug it off. Sure, Ayanin, just stay mysterious and creepy. That'll help everyone trust you. Rennie puts the camera down and begins trimming her nails. In her usual clumsy style, she accidentally cuts herself, and blood starts dripping from her finger. Well done, Rennie. Clearly, the devil didn't get to you. Your own Butterfingers did the job first. But instead of panicking, Rennie pretends she's been injured in Mulia's presence and imagines him healing her. Ayanin suddenly shifts into Mulia mode, repeating the same words her father used to say during rituals. Rennie plays along, but Bagoo's, suspicious as ever, spots Ajang sneaking food into a locked room. After Ajang leaves, Bagoo's, being the nosy type, tries to peek inside. Bagoo's, maybe mind your business for once. Or do you want another severed head surprise? Before he can see anything, Ayanin appears behind him and speaks casually, startling him. Bagoo's asks about Rennie, but something feels off. Bagoo's follows Ayanin back to the room, only to find the real Ayanin there. The Ayanin who had been with him vanishes into thin air. Great, now we got a buy one get one free ghost Ayanin situation. Just what we needed. Rennie is equally confused, especially when she checks the camera footage. It shows her sitting alone the entire time, no Ayanin in sight. Shaken by the strange events, both Bagoo's and Rennie are ready to leave the village. But Ayanin refuses, saying she wants to stay and follow in her father's footsteps. Of course, Ayanin, because nothing screams good life choices like inheriting a demon-haunted legacy. Driven by her admiration for Mulia and the shocking revelation that he's her father, Ayanin's determination grows. She tells Bagoo's and Rennie to leave without her. But deep down, her friends know they can't leave her behind, no matter how creepy things get. So let's recap. Creepy village haunted book, severed heads, and an emotionally unavailable protagonist. What could possibly go wrong next? Ajang is sitting in her room, and we see a boy named Remat there. Poor Remat has only one leg. But that doesn't stop him from clutching a stack of research papers like he's about to cure every disease in the world. Remat, buddy. With all that paperwork, you're either solving diseases or trying to overthrow a government. Remat, ever the curious one, grills Ajang about why Ayanin is here and what Linga is planning next. Meanwhile, Ayanin and her friends are still suspicious about everything going on in this creepy village. Honestly, this place should come with a warning sign. Enter at your own risk. Ghosts and shady rituals ahead. Later that night, Ajang is sleeping peacefully when, out of nowhere, someone starts pulling her blanket. Classic horror movie move, right? Come on, ghosts, get creative. We've seen this trick 1,000 times. Ajang wakes up in terror, only to find Remat under the blanket. Remat, as calm as ever, tells her to join him because he can see Mulia's spirit in the room. The two peek out and actually see Mulia's spirit. Then, out of nowhere, Remat jumps at Ajang, scaring the daylights out of her. But don't worry, it was just her nightmare. Ajang, maybe less ghost stories before bed and more chamomile tea? Meanwhile, Ayanin is hiding behind Linga, who takes her to Mulia's secret place, a creepy tunnel perfect for rituals. Linga starts preparing something intense, telling Ayanin to embrace her responsibility because she has Mulia's bloodline. Ayanin listens carefully, but things take a dark turn when Linga uses a dagger to start a painful ritual on Ayanin, stomping on her hand and leg as part of the process. Linga, ever heard of motivational speeches instead of medieval torture? As Ayanin chants along with Linga, she sees strange glimmers of light. Meanwhile, we cut to a disturbing scene where Remat is sleeping while clutching Mulia's severed head. Remat, my guy, this isn't a bedtime teddy bear. What are you even doing? Later, Ayanin's hand starts bleeding and a demonic figure licks the blood. Lovely. After the ritual, Linga takes Ayanin back to the village, announcing that she will now solve everyone's problems. Ayanin, with her new creepy energy, gives Remat a sinister smile from a window. Ayanin, you might want to work on your friendly neighborhood savior vibe. This is giving possessed villain. Remat, freaked out, realizes that the demon has taken over Ayanin, just like it probably did with Mulia. Remat runs to Bagooz to spill the tea. Bagooz learns that Remat was actually the one staying in the locked room Ajang kept feeding. So, Bagooz, all that snooping for nothing? You're no Sherlock Holmes, my friend. Remat tells Bagooz that if he really wants to uncover the truth, he needs to play the Azen in the village. Bagooz, though confused, agrees. The moment he starts reciting the Azen over the microphone, chaos breaks loose. Ayanin gets a terrible headache, and the villagers start writhing in pain, some with ears bleeding. Even Linga's daughter starts bleeding from her mouth. Bagooz, congratulations, you just turned the village into a haunted karaoke night. As Ayanin struggles with the pain, her reflection in the mirror reveals the angry demon inside her. Rini tries to calm her down, but things get worse for Bagooz. His throat suddenly tightens as if invisible hands are strangling him, leaving marks. Bagooz, next time someone asks you to recite Azen in a haunted village, maybe think twice. Blood suddenly gushes out of Bagooz's mouth, shocking everyone. The DM there, probably some self-proclaimed big boss, didn't want any Azen or religious activity to happen. Well, Mr. DM, guess ghosts are allergic to religion, huh? Meanwhile, Rini and Ayanin rush to help Bagooz. Ayanin, now acting normal, looks clueless as usual. They quickly realize something seriously wrong in the village. Deciding to pray together, Bagooz and Ayanin start, but Rini has to sit out due to her periods. Rini, girl, even demons respect biology. It's fine. As they pray, Remat secretly watches them. Suddenly, Rini lets out a blood-curdling scream. When Bagooz turns around, Ayanin is back to her possessed self, defying gravity and crawling on walls like Spider-Man's creepy cousin. Remat shows up just in time, but Ayanin leaps on him and starts choking him like a ghostly WWE wrestler. Turns out, the demon inside Ayanin figured out Remat was the mastermind who convinced Bagooz to play the Azen. Ajang, the local hero, jumps in and snaps Ayanin out of it. When Ayanin regains consciousness, she has no memory of her demonic antics. Convenient amnesia? Huh? Classic possessed person excuse. By morning, the villagers gather outside Mulia's house, furious that Bagooz dared to play the Azen. They demand that Bagooz and his crew leave the village immediately. Bagooz, now desperate, wants to take Rini and Ayanin and get out of there, but Linga stubbornly opposes this plan. Linga, buddy, maybe worry less about blocking the escape and more about the actual demons running around. Later, Ayanin apologizes to Ajang for her behavior. It's revealed that Remat is actually Mulia's second wife's son, born shortly before she died. Remat spills the tea. Mulia was the mastermind behind the creepy happenings, and Ayanin's mother had suffered the same fate. Hearing this, Ayanin's nose starts bleeding. Looks like the drama's too much even for her sinuses. She leaves in a creepy way, muttering something about it being Remat's fault. At night, Rini and Bagooz ask Ayanin to open a door so they can leave the village, but of course, possessed Ayanin isn't having it. Enter Remat, armed with his trusty research papers. He explains that the villagers couldn't tolerate the Azen because they'd lost faith in goodness and made a shady deal with some evil entity, himself. Wow! Mulia and the villagers really went full Satan's fan club. Huh? Remat, obsessed with Mulia's mysterious power since childhood, had followed him many times. Through flashbacks, we see that Mulia used to accept children as sacrifices and take them to a secret place. Mulia really said, it takes a village to summon evil. In the present, Remat leads Bagooz and Rini to a cellar where Linga had hidden a key earlier in the story. Using the key, Rini and Bagooz head down, while recording everything on a handheld camera, because clearly, horror movie rules dictate that everything must be filmed for maximum regret later. As they move deeper into the basement, Rini gets momentarily distracted. When she looks back, she sees Bagooz entering a room. She follows him, but when she steps inside, Bagooz is gone. Bagooz, you had one job. Don't disappear like a B-grade magician in a horror flick. Inside the room, there was a giant painting of Mulia holding a pearl necklace. Rini, trying to keep her cool, starts stepping back, but the necklace suddenly breaks and falls near her feet. Rini, maybe next time don't touch cursed-looking art, huh? Rookie move. When she turns back, Mulia is gone from the painting. Yep, classic haunted painting shenanigans. Suddenly, an unseen force begins to hunt Rini. Bagooz arrives just in time and pulls her out, leading her to a door. But as soon as they open it, countless creepy hands reach out, trying to drag Bagooz in. Looks like someone opened the VIP door to go central. Praying furiously, Bagooz frees himself and runs for it, but the basement door refuses to open despite his best efforts. Come on, Bagooz. You're fighting demons, not door locks. Try harder. Finally, after non-stop prayers, the door opens. As they head back, they see the souls of many sacrificed people sitting on the ground, trapped forever. Imagine being stuck in the afterlife because Mulia had a thing for evil deals. Tragic. After a miraculous escape, Bagooz and Rini make it out, but their handy cam is left behind in the chaos. Meanwhile, Ayanin is wandering the village in a dazed, possessed state. Linga's wife notices Ayanin's odd behavior and informs Linga. According to him, this was the moment Ayanin would start using her powers for the first time. Villagers gather around her, including a disabled woman with a badly injured hand. Ayanin asks the woman to have faith and, in one dramatic motion, pulls and fixes her hand, mimicking Mulia's creepy rituals. Wow! Dr. Ayanin here is fixing hands now. What's next, demon dentistry? The villagers, now convinced Ayanin is some kind of messiah, flock to her with their problems. Remat sees all this and is clearly not thrilled. Meanwhile, Bagooz and Rini arrive to check on Ayanin. Bagooz, sensing trouble, wants to take her away, but Linga and the villagers try to stop him. Ayanin, still half-possessed, starts spouting nonsense at Bagooz. Ayanin, maybe save the cryptic monologues for later, yeah? Frustrated, Bagooz decides it's time to leave with Rini. Remat, however, informs Ajang that Ayanin is following the same dark path as Mulia. This freaks Ajang out. Around the same time, Ayanin undergoes another ritual and gets a horrifying vision. Rumith and Ajang disposing of Mulia's body. Turns out, they were the ones who killed her. Plot twist. The real MVPs of village drama are Rumith and Ajang. Later, Bagooz and Rini arrive at Rumith's room to take him with them, but Rumith and Ajang have already left. The duo heads to the location where Mulia's body was found. Suddenly, an evil entity, described as the false god, appears and drags Remat into the bushes. Remat, buddy, maybe carry some holy water next time instead of research papers. As Rini tries to find Remat, Ayanin, now fully possessed and channeling some serious demonic energy, attacks him. She's no longer just Ayanin, but possessed by a powerful force. In her terrifying voice, she says something cryptic about a head for a head. Great, now she's speaking in riddles. Can someone please call an exorcist? The scene flashes back to the past, where Ajang learns a horrifying truth about Mulia through Rumith. Turns out, Mulia wasn't just a regular villain. He was planning to kill his wives after they gave birth so he could sacrifice them. Yep, this guy made Worst Husband of the Year look like an achievement. Mulia, buddy, maybe try couples counseling instead of human sacrifices. Ajang realizes her days are numbered since she's pregnant, and Mulia's next sacrifices her. Terrified, she tells him she's leaving the village. Mulia, of course, reacts like a classic control freak and tries to stop her by force. Big mistake. Ajang grabs a dagger lying nearby and slashes Mulia's neck. Mulia really thought he could boss her around. Guess the dagger said otherwise. But Mulia's not giving up that easily. As he's about to attack Ajang, Rumith, who had been silently watching everything like a deer caught in headlights, finally mans up. He grabs the same dagger and stabs Mulia in the neck, finishing him off. Rumith, the MVP of hesitation, takes forever but finally gets the job done. With Mulia dead, his spirit possesses Ayanin to seek revenge. In a creepy moment, Mulia's ghost mutters, sir instead of sir, something he had apparently said before. Not only is this guy a demonic spirit, but he's also bad at grammar. Priorities, Mulia, now back in the present deemed the evil entity, is about to kill Rumith when Ajang steps in, grabbing Ainan's leg to hold her back. Ajang, clearly channeling some serious action hero vibes, sacrifices herself to save Rumith. Meanwhile, Rumith finds a stone and runs into Rini and Bagooz. He begs them to help Ajang. When they return to where Ainan and Ajang had been fighting, though, they find no one. Of course, because when you need someone possessed, they always vanish like a bad Wi-Fi signal. Rumith then takes Rini and Bagooz to Mulia's house, where they discover Ainan and Ajang's bodies hidden inside. A book reveals the chilling truth. Only someone from Mulia's bloodline can kill the demon. This explains why Mulia didn't die when Ajang attacked him, but dropped dead when Rumith did. Apparently, Mulia's bloodline had been cursed, marked to deal with this demon. And here's why the demon was so obsessed with licking Ainan's blood. It was his way of verifying she was from Mulia's family. A demon with a taste for blood tests. This guy's a nightmare and a weirdo. The only way to weaken the demon now was to destroy people's faith in him. Rumith suggests they recite the Azan, a call to prayer, to turn people away from worshipping the demon back to the right path. If the villagers stopped believing in the demon, he would lose his power and fade away. Bagooz loves this idea because it's way better than killing Ainan. Good call, Bagooz. Murder's messy, and you'd probably mess it up anyway. Meanwhile, outside Ainan, still possessed by Deem, is dragging Ajang's body through the village like some twisted parade float. She brings him to Mulia's house, clearly under the Deem's control. Deem really can't let go. Someone needs to tell him therapy exists. Ainan, still possessed by the demon, called out Rumith and the villagers. Everyone came out of their homes, but no one dared to approach her. Classic villagers. Always ready to stare but too scared to act. What's the point of showing up then? Rumith, Bagooz, and Rini also stepped outside to try and save the day. As Ainan moved to attack Rumith, Ajang once again grabbed her leg to stop her. This made Ainan, or the demon inside her, furious. In her rage, Ainan didn't even consider that Ajang was carrying her own descendant in her womb. Instead, she grabbed a big stone and crushed Ajang's face right in front of everyone. Ainan's demon really said, "Family ties? Never heard of M." Rumith broke down crying, and Bagooz, with help from some villagers, managed to tie Ainan to a pole. Meanwhile, Linga tried to talk some sense into her, comparing her to her father and urging her to overpower the demon. But possessed Ainan wasn't having it. She gave him a death glare and, with the demon's telekinesis, lifted Linga into the air and speared him through the neck with a nearby rod. Linga died instantly. Linga really thought he could reason with a demon. Someone get him a manual on what not to do in horror movies. Seeing this, Bagooz began reciting the Azan prayers to weaken the demon. The demon writhed in pain, but Bagooz wasn't doing so great himself. Deem's powers made Bagooz's throat hurt, and blood started pouring from his mouth and ears. But Bagooz didn't stop. Talk about dedication. Bagooz said, "I might be dying, but at least the demon's having a bad day too." Suddenly, screams erupted from Malia's basement. The voices belonged to the spirits of people who had been sacrificed there. The village men decided to investigate, leaving the women, including Rini, to keep an eye on Ainan. Down in the basement, Bagooz and the villagers opened a door and were greeted by creepy, ghostly hands that tried to grab them again. Inside, they found dozens of dead bodies hanging, dripping water. Mulia had been using the energy from these spirits to maintain his power. Mulia really had a home decor aesthetic, dead chic with a splash of horror. Meanwhile, outside, Ainan started laughing hysterically. She told Rini the bodies were real and belonged to the people who had been sacrificed by Mulia. After saying this, she vanished into thin air. Imagine dropping terrifying news and then just poofing out. Ainan really said, "And I'm out. Bye." Back in the basement, the villagers began taking the bodies down. But before they could do much, Ainan appeared, using her powers to force everyone to their knees. She taunted the villagers, blaming them for choosing the demonic path and warning them that they would always suffer because of their choices. But Bagooz wasn't done yet. He began reciting the Azan again. This time, the entire village joined in, chanting prayers together. The demon couldn't handle this collective faith, and Ainan collapsed to the ground, writhing in pain. Her faith in the demon was finally breaking. Soon after, everything returned to normal. The villagers realized the gravity of their mistake in worshipping a demon all this time. Well, congratulations, villagers. It only took a possessed girl, a few murders, and a haunted basement to figure out you were doing it wrong. So, the villagers decided to pray together in the mosque because they realized that what God gives is right. Well, it only took a demonic possession, a few murders, and a haunted basement for them to figure that out. But as they were praying, guess who showed up to spoil the peace? Ainan, possessed again. This time, she decided she was going to strangle Rini. She grabbed Rini by the throat and lifted her off the ground. Inside Ainan's mind, Mulia, the demon, started talking to her. Mulia told Ayanin that she could be just like her. Because clearly, wanting to be possessed by a demon is a life goal we all have, right? Ayanin thought about it, but then remembered how horrible her father was and how much evil he had done under the demon's influence. She didn't want that for herself. So, Ayanin finally got some control back, kicked Mulia out of her mind, and became herself again. Talk about a plot twist. Ayanin went from Demon's #1 fan to no thanks, I'll pass in no time. Now, everything was calm again. The next morning, Ayanin and Baguz decided to stay in the village, not just for themselves but to help Remat and the villagers, and even perform the funeral rites for Linga and Ajang. Then, Buddy showed up to take Rini away because it was time for her to leave. Wow! Just when you think it's safe, another character pops up like, wait, we're still in this movie. But before she left, Ayanin handed Buddy Mulia's book. You know, the one that started all this mess. She didn't want the book falling into the wrong hands again, so she made sure it was given to someone who could keep it safe. Ayanin also apologized to Buddy for how she had treated him earlier. Well, I guess apologizing to people you've tried to kill is kind of a big deal. Ayanin's trying to be a better person, one demonic possession at a time. Buddy forgave her, took Rini, and left the village. And finally, the movie ends with a moral. God is a protector of those who have faith in him. You know, just in case you didn't get the message from all the demon drama. But those who choose to follow false prophets and power instead of God, well, no one can save them, and they'll end up walking down the dark path toward hell. I mean, we all saw it coming. Demons plus bad choices equal to big problems. And with that, the movie ends.